The city of Hoboken has a new mayor. Ravi Bala enters office after winning an election that received national attention after he was subjected to a racist attack during his run for office. I had a chance to sit down with the man now at the helm of one of our region's most important and vibrant cities. Mayor Ravi Bala, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've made history by becoming the first elected Sikh mayor in New Jersey. How important was that recognition of your faith to you?
It was important to my faith community in a lot of ways. The Sikh community has undergone a lot of suffering through the course of our history, both in India and the United States. So to the extent that it was a positive boost to the psyche of the community, it's something that's very meaningful to me. But I think it was also something that's meaningful to a lot of minorities and vulnerable communities throughout the country. That, you know, in this country, if you're qualified, if you work hard, you can succeed on the merits.
Ravi's faith was targeted in the weeks leading up to the November election. An anonymous flyer was distributed with the message, "Don't let terrorism take over our town." How do you look back at that particular moment, and how will it impact in any way the way in which you govern the city?
You know, that word, terrorism, is almost like the N-word for an African American. It's deeply hurtful because they're associating an article of faith of mine, specifically my turban, with terrorism. And that's the Sikh turban represents the exact opposite. It represents love for all humanity, equality, justice, peace. So it was very hurtful, obviously, but I think that, you know, people saw what happened and they made their voices heard at the ballot box and said that hate will not be tolerated in Hoboken. Because that incident is not reflective in any way, shape, or form of Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken is a very diverse and welcoming community. If it weren't, I would not be mayor.
What's the biggest challenge facing Hoboken at the moment that you aim to tackle from day one?
One of the biggest is infrastructure. We have a city that's the fourth most densely populated in the country. We need to find, from an infrastructure perspective, better ways to get people to and from Manhattan. So we have three options: the bus, the path, or the ferry. One thing I would like to explore is means to really utilize the ferry service in a more effective and efficient way.
Ravi Bala's aim is to significantly reduce the cost of that ferry ride, which currently stands at $9 each way. Also at the top of his agenda, dealing with the threat posed by rising sea levels. 5 years ago, this part of the city was submerged in water. Few cities were hit harder by Hurricane Sandy than Hoboken. The former mayor Dawn Zimmer said that this is a city on the front lines of climate change. For Ravi Bala now, an integral part of his job is to build a more resilient city. Bala told us he's committed to building resiliency parks equipped with underground water retention systems to mitigate the threat of flooding. But for longtime community activist Inez Garcia-Caim, the biggest challenge facing Hoboken is socio-cultural in nature. You're a long-time resident of Hoboken. What are the biggest issues facing the city that you think Ravi really needs to address during his first few months in office?
I would have to start with unity. This town has undergone tremendous change in the past 10 to 15 years demographically. And the fact that someone like him was elected, I think is reflective of the fact that even though we have changed so much, we have embraced that change. But there's still some deep divisions. And
what kind of divisions?
There's still somewhat of a friction between the people who have lived here all their lives versus the newer arrivals. So you have what people have called hyper-gentrification. As the town becomes more successful, even those of us who were considered gentrifiers 20 or 30 years ago are feeling the pressure.
How do you go about protecting the residents that have lived here for a number of years and are now at risk of being priced out of the city?
Well, that's a huge priority for me in the coming 4 years. You know, people are being priced out. There's displacement going on. Before I was in the public sphere, I served as Hoboken's rent board attorney. So I want to continue affordable housing policies and make sure Hoboken is a place where no matter your income level, there's a place that you could find home within our square mile.
As well as serving as the city's rent board attorney, Balla touts his experience as council president during his predecessor Dawn Zimmer's time in office. Former council colleague Michael DeFusco ran a close second to Balla in the mayoral election.
Mike, you mentioned during the course of the campaign that you felt that Ravi was the chief enforcer for the former mayor Dawn Zimmer. What did you mean by that, and how do you think that might impact the way in which he governs the city of Hoboken as mayor?
The Zimmer administration over 9 years has had some successes, but a lot of failures. Ravi is a continuation of the status quo. On the city council, he has been the mayor's chief enforcer. When an idea was not proprietary to this administration, Ravi would come into the council meeting and he would enforce the mayor's platform. And so I hope as mayor himself, he'll be open to a spirit of collaboration and communication that was not present over the past 9 years.
Former Mayor Dawn Zimmer sees things rather differently.
He's extremely committed to Hoboken, and I've been working with him since 2009. He's been really a partner in everything that we've accomplished, and we've really turned the ship around, and really proud that we've taken the city, and we have a AA+ bond rating, and he's been a big part of making all of those things happen. So I think he's going to be a fantastic mayor, and he's really committed to the things that I want to make sure get done for the city of Hoboken.
And for Ravi Balla, a new beginning, building on what he views as a successful former administration.
It's definitely going to be a fresh start. Mayor Zimmer has done an excellent job in terms of the Hoboken turnaround, in terms of reforming our government. We're obviously different people. We have different approaches, different styles of governing. I think you're going to see a lot more collaboration amongst various stakeholders within the community.
I want to ask you now a little bit about the political scene nationally. As mayor of Hoboken, you now become a figurehead for this community. How do you aim to use that position to perhaps push back on some of the policies at a national level and at a state level?
Well, a lot of the policies coming out of Washington with President Trump are having direct impacts on residents in Hoboken and throughout the country. Whether it's the tax bill that's under consideration right now, the gutting of the EPA, and even the Muslim ban impacted my own family. So it has a real impact on people in Hoboken. And what I see coming forward as a trend is that as you have more Republican governors, more Republican-controlled legislatures that are not going to stand up to President Trump, it's really going to be the mayors of the major cities in the country that are the front lines for protecting our rights as Americans. And I'm completely willing, ready, and prepared to do that. If any policy coming from Trenton, Washington, by a Republican, Democrat impacts our rights as Americans, it's my job as Hoboken's mayor to make sure that my residents are protected under not just the New Jersey Constitution, but also our country's Constitution.
Mayor Balla was inaugurated on New Year's Day, and his first action was to sign an executive order declaring the city of Hoboken a fair and welcoming city.